that any employees of Walmart died. But I do understand that there were customers that were severely hurt. And looking at some of these videos is absolutely amazing. What people, just over DVDs. What you're fighting, literally fighting to save a few bucks on a DVD. Come on, let's be real. This is supposed to be a happy time of season, folks. A happy time of year. You're supposed to love your fellow man. No, I'm not going politically or going overseas or anything like that. That's a whole different story. I'm talking about if you're in the Christmas spirit and you're out there among your fellow Americans, your fellow human beings, you're supposed to treat them with kindness and dignity. Now, that story of the New York City cop buying that homeless man a pair of winter boots and socks is very heartwarming. And I know there are some people out there saying, well, see, Rod, you're always railing against the police. No. I never said that all cops are bad. I never said most cops were bad. I did say that most people who want to be cops are not out to help people. They're out for power, because there are many ways that you can help people. And let's face it, most of the time, if you're a cop and you show up somewhere, you're not going to be helping people. You're going to be making somebody's day, possibly weeks and months or years, miserable. But this young man, 25 years old, I guess a police officer, he's a 3-year veteran, bought, on a cop salary in New York City is not a lot, especially, at his rank and tenure. What's he making in the 30s? Mid-30s in New York City? That's poverty, basically. But unless he lives, in places like the Bronx or Brooklyn or something, which he probably does. But I guess he lives with his parents. But in any case, he's 25 or somewhere around there. Only been in the force about 3 years. But he felt for this homeless man. And he bought this homeless man, a $100 pair of boots. Now, I later learned and understood that the store that he went to buy the boots, I guess the cop must have been explaining why he was buying them, because the employee gave the cop his employee discount, which saved the cop $25. So the $100 boots ended up costing $75, and he gave them to the. And I guess from the eyewitness, she said that the officer helped him put on the boots, the socks and the boots. Now, that is the definition of to serve and protect. Now, I'm not saying that all cops have to start going out and buying stuff for homeless people. That's not what I'm. But that is the idea. And he's the kind of cop that people can not only look up to, but trust to go to when they really have a legal need or issue. Most of the time, even when people are being threatened or attacked, they're more afraid of the cops than they are of the perpetrator. No, I don't want to call the cops. Now, that's sad. And far too often, cops are removed from the public because cops are in many communities. Cops aren't walking the street. They're not on the beat. They're stuck in these big, lavish, very comfortable cruisers, most of the time, even in the hot weather, with their windows up and air conditioning or a heat system blasting. And yes, believe it or not, I have seen many, at least here in New England, and New York, many a cruiser with a radio. Now, what do I mean by radio? Not the kind that they're using for work, but a stereo radio that picks up music channels. And half the time they have them on. That's not serving the public. I'm sorry, it's not. But it was good to see that here is a young man who's a police officer in the city of New York. And New York is not known as being one of the friendliest cities in the country, let alone the planet. But here, taking care of one of his own. Taking care of a fellow citizen. That was a beautiful thing. That is heartwarming, especially at this time of year. And that's a great thing. And he should be commended. And if anything, if the government wants to spend money on the so-called poor, I think they should reimburse that cop for buying the shoes for that homeless man. They should reimburse that. Look, I'm serious. They should reimburse. The government should reimburse this police officer out of the so-called social funds. You know, all these social programs, they should reimburse that cop out of those funds. Because he actually did something. You know how much it probably would have cost for those $100 boots to be put on that homeless man if he went through government channels? It wouldn't have been $75. It would have been at least twice that, $200 for $100 boots. Guaranteed. Because of the bureaucracy, the pay, and the person, that poor homeless man, probably would have been waiting at least a week to get those shoes. So I say it's a bargain. Give the cop back the $75 out of those funds. It was a good thing. And, and this is how we should be all the time. Now, I don't necessarily, I know there are people out there that say, Rod, I heard you say you don't give money to homeless. No, I don't give money. Not anymore. I used to when I was younger. But I found out what most of them did with the money. They didn't go get something to eat. They didn't save the money to try to get themselves a place to live. They didn't use the money to clothe themselves. Most of them used the money to go either buy drugs or booze. So what I do now, if somebody comes across, is I offer them a meal. I'll go pay for. I don't even have to. I've done it. I've only had one homeless person take me up on the meal offer, and I've offered it a lot in Boston. I said, you know what? You're hungry, right? Yeah, I'm real hungry. Come on, let me go get you a meal. No, that's okay. I'll just take the money. No, how about I go buy you a meal? No, man, I don't want that. I had one person take me up on it, and I actually sat there with him. And I talked to him. And I felt for this guy. Well, there wasn't much more I could do for him. I mean, I didn't have the power to give him a job. I didn't have the wherewithal or finances to get him an apartment. There wasn't much I could do for him, but I could buy him a big hot meal. So at least he wasn't hungry that day. And I could point him in the right direction to services that really help the homeless. See, that is how you serve the poor in spirit. What this officer did is he went and bought this gentleman, socks and boots to keep his feet warm in the winter. Now, the cop, being a cop, living at home himself, probably had very little means to help this guy beyond what he did. But he did something that was significant. I don't know if the homeless man had a drug problem or a mental problem. The cop did not allow himself to foster this guy's problems. However, he saw a problem that this man was having, and he found a solution. The one person that took me up on the meal offer, I saw he had a problem that I could fix. He was hungry. I could feed him. All those other people, no, they didn't want me to buy them a meal, even though they said they were hungry. They just wanted me to give them the cash. So who knows? So what? They could go buy drugs or booze, or maybe they weren't homeless at all and they were just scamming people out there. There are people that do that. I remember around 97, 98, they did I think it was around then. I think the Boston Globe did a story on homeless people. Or panhandlers, excuse me. They call panhandlers. And they found out that some panhandlers back in the mid to late 90s were earning $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 off of people like you and me just giving them change out of their pocket. And, that was one of the reasons that, and realizing and finding out that a lot of those people who were homeless, who really were homeless, they were using the money that was being given to them to change out of people's pockets, not to help themselves, but to destroy themselves even further by buying drugs or booze. That's when I switched and started saying, I'll buy you a meal. I'll buy you lunch or dinner. Come on. Yeah, like I said, most of them, I've had one person accept my offer. Well, Rod, you probably didn't sit with him. No, like I said, I sat with him and I chatted with him. We sat there for about an hour. And I really felt for him, but there was nothing more else I could do for him. And then when I was out in San Francisco, I've relayed this story already, and I saw the number of homeless in a state that just voted to raise its own income tax rate, by the way. That state and that city's loaded with liberals up the wazoo. But that is the worst homeless problem I have ever seen in my entire life. No, I've never seen that many homeless people in Boston, and I've been all over Boston. I haven't seen that many homeless people in New York, in Syracuse, in Buffalo, in Rochester, New York, in Detroit. Well, maybe Detroit, they have them now, but last time I was in Detroit, didn't see that many people. Atlanta, Georgia, didn't see them. Charlotte, North Carolina, didn't see as many homeless as I saw in San Francisco. And California is probably the most liberal state in the union, and San Francisco is probably the most liberal city in that state, making San Francisco probably the most liberal city in the country. And yet, they have got a huge homeless problem. Sometimes you just got to scratch your head, and people actually keep going, believing this stuff and going for it and voting for it. Well, hey, California, you're voting to put more people out in the street by raising your income taxes. That means less people are going to be able to afford your expensive housing. What are you going to do? Walk by those people too? Are they going to have to depend on a bloated bureaucracy that obviously isn't working? I don't know. I guess that's what people call, overpaying taxes, being burdened by overtaxation. I guess people call that kind of stuff. That's being humane and caring. Really? Wasting money. Now, I know some people try to use the term, well, Jesus said that we're supposed to take care of the poor. Well, first of all, he did not mean poor financially. And second of all, there ain't no way in Hades that Jesus said to waste money to help anyone. You're supposed to be a good steward of the finances that you are blessed with, no matter how little or how much. And let me tell you something. Willingly giving the government more of your own money so they can waste it is not being a good steward. We know it costs more for government services to be administered by the government than those same exact services being administered by a private entity or charity. We know this. There is no disputing it. We know the cost. But hey, you people continually want, you liberals continually want bigger and bigger government. Now, let me tell you something. You know what? If the government were to get out of the welfare business and let private enterprise do it, I guarantee you, there would be fewer homeless and fewer poverty-stricken people in this country. But the government takes money out of the pockets of hardworking people. I don't care how rich or how poor, if they make $5 an hour or $500 an hour. The money doesn't belong to the government, yet the government is stealing it, and it's increasing and